Hi, everybody. I'm glad to be back. I've missed you. New hairdo. It's gray. This is what happens during COVID. I'm not sorry, though. I'm actually very happy because I won't have to sit in the beauty shop for hours to get my hair colored. It seems to be the wave of the future. I mean, there's so many women that are doing it during COVID. It seems they say that gray is going to be the new blonde. Blonde. We'll see. I'm very, very grateful to all my subscribers, and I thank you from the bottom of my heart. I really, really do. You have written me such beautiful messages and comments, and you've risen the number of my subscribers. I'm really appreciative of that, because this is why I've done these. That's why I make these videos, is because I want to help people and I want to share the experiences I've had in my life. And I've had an unusual life, and I feel that I can help people by coming from my heart and expressing the truth about the way I felt about my emotions during different aspects of my life. And especially now that I'm so much older, looking back, I can relate and share what it's like to live it then, being an older woman and with a younger man, and what it's like now and what it's been. And I hope you enjoy this. I really do. If you're new to this channel, welcome to you, and I really suggest that you watch Older Women, Younger Man, A Love Story. That was the first one I made about 4 years ago, but it's good forever, and it'll give you a good background of how Brian and I met. And I shared a lot about my feelings then too as well. So thank you again for coming to my channel and for watching me and asking me questions and responding so beautifully to the videos that I make, because it really means a lot to me. I almost didn't want to tell this video today, or make this video, I should say, about our wedding, because I know this sounds kind of crazy, but it was such an amazing experience for me, and I know it was for my husband as well, that I didn't want anyone to be envious. I mean, we all can have it if we're patient, and I'm going to be making videos in the future that are actually more dark than the ones that I've been trying to do lately. My goal is to make inspirational videos that will inspire you on your own personal journey. And the dark side, which I lived for 40 years, is not as easy to talk about, but my girlfriend told me recently that people want to hear it. And I have been thinking about it a lot. What we've gone through the last several years, what we're going through now as a society, is so painful and so hard for everybody that I feel that my healing and when I got well will really help. They aren't the same issues at all, but I feel that when I share with you different experiences I've had and how I got well, because I truly would not be here telling this story about I wouldn't even have gotten married if I hadn't gotten well and made the effort to change my unhealthy ways. When I graduated high school, Brian wasn't even born. He was born the year after I graduated high school. And we found that out when we first met. I am 19 years older. I'm actually older than his mother. And it could have been a problem, but it turned out to be absolutely amazing and wonderful. And thousands of you, many of you, write me and share your stories. And you too are experiencing such beautiful, beautiful May-December relationships. You are, and I'm grateful for that you're sharing them. We realized very soon after we met, within a couple of months, I would say, that we wanted to be together the rest of our life. And I went all over San Francisco looking for the proper venue for us to have a wedding. We wanted a justice of the peace because we weren't members of a synagogue or a church, so we wanted to be married by a judge or a justice of the peace. So I found this inn. It was called Alamo Square Inn. It isn't even there anymore. It's when I did research to make this video, it's gone. It's been gone a long time, but it was a beautiful, beautiful Victorian inn, and it was located on Alamo Square in San Francisco. That is a place where you've probably heard of this, maybe, that there are 6 or 7. There's 6 residences. They're Victorian residences called the Painted Ladies. They're absolutely gorgeous. And this inn is up on Alamo Square on a hill that overlooks all of these beautiful homes. But the 2 guys that owned this inn, this hotel, they did a magnificent job of planning weddings. And it was just perfect for what we wanted, because our relatives, Brian's whole family lives in the Chicago area. His whole family would be coming to the wedding. His sisters, this was in December, but one of his sisters was actually graduating high school, and the others were a little older. But they were all going to be coming, so we were going to be able to invite them to stay in the inn, so we would have a whole weekend wedding. It seemed really fabulous. Keep in mind, I had never met his family, his sisters. I had met his mother, and you'll see that in my first video that I did. I met his mother, but I hadn't met his 3 sisters. And then he had a best man. I hadn't met him. So we agreed to have the wedding there. And my girlfriend said to me, I didn't have a dress, I didn't have anything, and I was trying to save money, so I had this. Keep in mind, this is a long time ago. It wouldn't be in style now, but Victorian dresses were actually in style then. It just so happened. And my girlfriend, she asked me where I was going to get a dress, if I was going to get one. But I knew they were so expensive, so I said, well, I'm going to bead this dress I have. So I took this pink dress I had and I started beading it with all these little beads, and she looked at me and said, oh my gosh. So Brian gave me the idea that I could call, they used to have places like this, I could call wedding rental shops that rented costumes and wedding dresses for movies, to see what I could find. And I couldn't believe it. I did that, and I got the most gorgeous, gorgeous dress. It was just spectacular, and with a big, magnificent hat. So I was all set with the dress, and then Brian was going to have tails, and the guys that ran this place, this inn, suggested that maybe we'd want to have a horse and carriage, take us to the wedding. And I went, wow. And so we called the coachman, and there was a guy in San Francisco, I don't remember his name. He had horses, and he rented his carriages and his horses. But we lived in a cottage in the Mission area, right next to the original Mission Dolores. And our house was very old, about 125 years. And it was, in order to go from our house to across town to this wedding venue, or this inn, you have to go up hills. It's only 1.5 miles, which doesn't seem like long, but imagine the traffic in San Francisco. It's not as bad as it is now, but it was bad. And he said, well, the coachman said he would have to practice and take his horses and see if they could get from our house to the inn, and they were going to pick me up because Brian was going to stay all night at the inn with his relatives and his best man and another friend of his, very good friend, and I was going to stay at home alone. Well, it worked. The coachman called us and said, yes, I can do that. I can drive you to your wedding. And I thought, oh my gosh, that is so amazing. And the morning of the wedding, before the morning, I was so nervous. Of course I was nervous about getting married. I was nervous about him being younger. I was nervous about getting married. I was nervous about meeting his relatives at, that weekend. What if they didn't like me? It was really nerve-wracking. So I made presents for his sisters, and I took my mother's jewelry. My mother is deceased, and was at the time. So I took some jewelry of hers, and I made a basket for my mother-in-law because I wanted to do something to connect with them. It's so important to have family, and mine was so small. My brother is deceased. I only had one sibling. My brother's deceased, and my mother is deceased, and my father died when I was 9. So I was gaining a whole new family, but they were all strangers to me. But we had a rehearsal dinner. We got through the weekend, and it was really exciting. They roasted. My aunt and I. Oh, I had a precious aunt. She was alive then. She didn't live too much longer past the wedding. She was I was very close to her. I was actually closer to her almost than my mom because my mother died so long ago, and I sort of took care of my aunt or helped her in her aging years. And so she was there as well, and she was staying at the inn. But I was home by myself. And the morning that the flowers came, I had a beautiful bouquet of flowers, and I opened the door and they delivered it, and then I realized I couldn't button my dress. It had 30 ivory satin buttons down the back. So what was I going to do? So I called my neighbor, other guys that I know. They were coming to the wedding, so they gladly came over. And nobody really took a picture of me, but I can tell you that when I put on my dress and I had the flowers in my hand, it was like a dream. It was like an impossible dream. It felt like something that could never happen to me, never. My life was so dark until I was the age of 40, and when I got married, I was 45. It was so dark before that, and I was really a sick person. In my therapy that I was in for 5 years, I never thought I could have a happy life. And so this experience for me was just, it was beyond belief that I could be so happy, that I loved somebody, that he loved me. I wasn't thinking about his age. It was just that we wanted a healthy partnership together. And as I was getting dressed, the guy helped me, and then I walked outside, and there I'd heard it. I'd heard the sounds of the horses' hoofs, clippity-clop, clippity-clop. It sounded like it was cobblestone. It really wasn't cobblestone, but we did live on one of the oldest streets in the whole city of San Francisco. It was so romantic. I just can't tell you. I went out, and the horses were so proud. They were just going to drive me to myself to our wedding, and they were just reared back, and they were so happy. And I had made these beautiful bows, fluffy bows, and they put them on their head, on the riding gear. And I got in. I think my friends helped me in, and drove across San Francisco. Wow, was that something? I'm telling you, I'll never forget it the rest of my life. People were honking, they were taking pictures. I mean, this was before cell phones. Keep in mind, some of, tourists, a tourist town, they had cameras, I guess. They were waving. I felt like a princess. It was just amazing. And I sat in there thinking to myself, remember every second of this ride, because you're starting a whole new life. But this is like such a magnificent omen or event to begin your life together. And that's how I felt it all the way across the city. And then when we got to Alamo Square, there were my nieces and my attendants and his groomsmen lined up on the steps went up to this inn, waiting for me to get there. And Brian was standing on the curb, and he looked just so handsome, and it was a dream. I can't tell you. I still think about it to this day, how that felt to be able to be so healthy and well after so many years of illness, and to have such a wonderful man, a guy. And I remember he put out his hand to help me out of the carriage, and he took my hand, and the oddest thing happened. I was really kind of shocked. My knees buckled. They absolutely buckled. I almost fainted. And it was not like me at all. And I don't think he noticed it really, because maybe he was nervous too. I don't really know. But he took my hand, and we managed to get it together, take a breath in front of the carriage, and then we walked on in to the nuptials. Once we got inside, everybody was standing up, and they surrounded us. And we walked in, and we had our attendants behind us. And the Justice of the Peace had given us papers, or told us what he was going to say. And when it came to saying, will you take this man to be your lawful wedded husband? We had seen on the paper the night before that it said, I do. That's what was written on the paper. Well, just as I was about to say, I do, he opened his lapel, in front of the two of us, he opened it with a button this big that said, I will. And I was frozen in place, like, what the heck? Do I say I will? And he did the same thing for Brian. And both of us kind of looked at each other. And just the other day, I asked Brian, what did we say? Did we say I will? Or did we say, he said, I don't remember. Well, I don't remember either, because it was so bizarre. I don't know if it was a joke, if he was trying to liven us up. I never got it. And we never got to ask him either. And then later somebody said to me, oh, the initiate's speech was so fantastic. And I thought, really? And it kind of shows you when you're getting married, I don't even know if you're listening to what people are saying, really, because I didn't. But we were married, and that was pretty fantastic. Now, I want to digress for a minute about something, because I think friends and family absolutely light up our lives, the connections we have. And as I said earlier, I was gaining a whole new family, and my friends were there too. I do have a small family of my own, and they were a part of the wedding. My nieces, Sarah and Katie, they were young kids, And they were so adorable. And they were the flower girls or the junior bridesmaids. I don't know what we call them. And then over the years, many years later, Sarah went to college near us and was able to help me many times with our daughter, whom we adopted in 1995 as a baby. And my other niece, Katie, her sister, Sarah's sister, lived next door to us for about a year and a half in San Francisco. And she helped me when our daughter was about a year old. She helped me for a whole year. It was really fantastic. But these pictures, in the pictures, they sometimes look a little like, what am I doing here? Because keep in mind, I had never spent any time with them. They lived in another city. So that when I say how special and important your family is and your friends, is because that was the first real connection I had with them when they were young. And then years later, we became very close. And I'm very close to my nieces. Unfortunately, I haven't seen them very much. And I must say COVID hasn't made that any easier either. But they're in my heart forever. And my friend Rosemary, she stood by me for all the years that I was sick. And I mean all the years that I was sick, about 5. She would come over to our house. This is before I met Brian. And she would sit at the end of the bed, and it would be like a therapy session. And I'm very, very grateful for her friendship. I love her so much. And again, I don't see her much. She also lives in California, but we're not that close in distance. And then another friend that I had at the wedding was a new friend, Julie, and she helped do all the wedding planning. She did it. We didn't have a wedding planner, so she was the one, the day of the wedding, that got it all together, that told everybody where to go while I was being driven across the city. That's enough for the backgrounds. But then it was time for the buffet, time to eat after we were now married. And the way, I'll never forget it, we walk in, they pulled back these doors, and it was so beautiful, the food. The 2 men that owned the inn, one was the chef and the other one was kind of the overall planner of the weddings. His food was so exquisite, and the flowers were magnificent. I was just in another world. I truly was. And after we had this beautiful, beautiful buffet, they took us, the coachman said, let's take you 2 for a ride. And he took Brian and I on a ride through Alamo Square. Well, it isn't a really big square, but it's large. There's paths that the horses could ride. And we got to overlook the houses, the beautiful Victorian houses. And I remember thinking that it was just a dream that I never even knew I had, to be honest with you. I never knew I could have something like that. It was a very, very special, special wedding, and we've had a wonderful marriage together. We have a great life. Our daughter's now 25. She moved out just recently, very happily. She moved with some friends. She has a job, and she graduated college, and she's on her own. And now we're back to being a couple. It's kind of fun. Well, that's my story. I hope you enjoyed it. I really do. And I thank you again for listening to my channel.